was wrong. Always thought you'd be by my side, Papa, now you're gone. What are those, baby? What we had was good. How come you won't call me anymore? Still light the fire on a rainy night. Still like it better when you're holding me tight. Everybody said that we should never part. No, baby. So tell me, baby, 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 why you wanna go and break my heart? Yeah, yeah, woo. What are those, baby? Before we had was good. How come you won't call me anymore? Ooh, oh. Sometimes it feels like I'm gonna die. If you won't call me Papa, ooh, you got to try. I won't get down on my knees, hoping you please, please come home. No, won't you call me sometimes now, Papa, baby? Why on earth can't you just pick up the phone? You know I don't like to be alone. How come you won't call me? How come you won't call me? Hey Topher, how's the time going? Okay, cool. I see the crystal raindrops fall on the window down the hall, and it becomes the morning dew. Darling, when the morning comes and I see the morning sun, I wanna be the one with you. Just the two of us. We can make it if we try. Just the two of us. Just the two of us. Just the two of us. Building castles in the sky. Just the two of us. You and I. I see the crystal morning rain on the window down the hall, and it becomes the morning dew. not to those who wait too late, 'cause we gotta go for all we know. Just the two of us. We can't make it if we try. Just the two of us. Just the two of us. Just the two of us. Putting castles in the sky. Just the two of us. You and I. I see the crystal morning sun on the window down the hall, and it becomes the morning dew. Darling, when the morning comes and I see the morning sun, I wanna be the one with you. Just the two of us. We can make that if we try. Just the two of us. Just the two of us. Just the two of us. Putting castles in the sky. Just the two of us. You and I. Just the two of us. We can make it. Just the two of us. You and I. Thank you. I'm Eleanor Parry. I'll be back shortly.
One, two. Well, hello. Hello and welcome to the NYET ZERO Gala Launch. Thank you so much for being here. Could you give yourselves a round of applause? Tonight is going to be an absolute riot. The team have been incredible. How good does the room look? Have you had a good look at what's on your table? Are you confused by what's on your table? Yeah, a lot of people are confused by what's on their table. We're going to talk about this one especially a little bit later on in the evening. This is a unique one. But there is a blend of industrial along with floral. There is a blend of natural along with man-made. You'll see on the screens at the back of the room here, we have some historic photographs celebrating some of Australia's achievements and commemorating some of Australia's tougher moments over the last century. This gala tonight is a celebration of what humans can achieve, and it is, more particularly, a celebration of carbon dioxide as the gas of life. I don't know if you've noticed recently, carbon dioxide seems to be getting a bit of a bad rap. I happen to think that's pretty unfair. And so, NYET ZERO has been envisaged and created to defend the dignity and honour of CO2. And I'm very, very grateful that you've joined me here for the very, very first launch. We're going to have lots of fun. We're going to have a lot of music, a lot of laughs, and we will have absolutely no political correctness. If you would like to get thrown out, please try being politically correct. You will be on the street before you know it. Now, as is traditional with these events, as the MC, it is my responsibility to make you laugh with some jokes early on. Well, I'm sorry to say that my jokes are a lot like the mRNA vaccines. They're not very safe. They're not known to be particularly effective, if I'm honest. and they definitely cause quite a lot of adverse reactions. The only thing that my jokes have in common, the other thing that my jokes have in common with the mRNA vaccines is that I'm not liable for any adverse reaction that you may have. Does it feel like the world's gone mad? A little bit. It's a little bit, you know, down the rabbit hole, through the looking glass. Pick your analogy. It's just the world's gone weird, hasn't it? And of course, we noticed it especially in 2020 when it went weird with COVID mania. But to be honest, it's been going weird for a little while before that. It just kind of, it accelerated. It got fast. You know, I knew that we'd reached just unimaginable levels of stupidity when I discovered that I could not visit the Buchan Caves. That's, for those that don't know the Buchan Caves, they're caves in a place called Buchan. Right, you got that? Buchan Caves, complicated, I know. And they are exactly what you're picturing in your mind. You walk inside and you look around and you go dirt, 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 dirt. A little bit of light all the way over there, right? That's a cave. And I was not allowed to join some friends going to the Buchan Caves because it was classified as indoors and I was unvaccinated. I'm not sure exactly what the hazard was, but perhaps they were worried I was going to give it back to the bats. You know, the world has changed. I could not help but notice, once upon a time, back in the good old days, in the before times, right? Way back in 2019, if someone with a penis followed a 14-year-old girl into the girls' bathrooms, we would call them a pervert, right? But now they've rebranded. Now we call them stunning and brave. A rebrand, interesting. I couldn't help but notice back in the day, if someone was selling a fake cure to a common illness, cure that maybe didn't even work, we would call them a snake oil salesman, but they've rebranded. Now we call them Pfizer. And I got to thinking, this rebranding thing actually explains a lot, and really it's quite clever. You could really do anything with rebranding. I got to thinking about Harvey Weinstein, you know, the Hollywood producer. He was making girls do unpleasant things in order to get a role. I thought, fantastic for him, this rebranding trend. He's just got to call himself the original no jab, no job. I told you there's no political correctness here tonight. So we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to celebrate CO2, and along the way, we're going to celebrate human achievement. Because you know what's funny? What's funny is, you know, human CO2 levels on the planet were at a certain level. Humans came along and apparently we've caused that to increase. There is some logic to that. And you know what? I think we should be incredibly proud of that achievement. And it is, in fact, an achievement that belongs squarely to the industrialized world. The industrialized world has almost miraculously found a way to increase plant life on this planet. And I think that is something very much worth celebrating, and that's what tonight is all about. However, I did get a call. And that call got my attention very, very quickly. And it was an offer that I couldn't refuse, an offer that I could not turn down, a special guest who said that they were willing to reciprocate my visit to his house last month. So I visited someone in America last month. Does anyone know who that is? Have you seen the video? You see whose house I went to last month? Okay. It's, I don't know if you've heard of him. It's a guy called Donald Trump. I was at his house last month, excuse me. And, you know, Donald Trump and Vivek Ramaswamy and a whole bunch of other people were there, along with a bajillion, I mean, I'm not even exaggerating, a bajillion Secret Service. It was insane. And I could not help but notice that Donald Trump is basically Taylor Swift for 60-year-old millionaires. Because I was in that room, and there was the velvet rope so that he could walk in a clear pathway down, and I thought we were all going to be dignified, like this. A lovely, dignified event. I've got to say, the room was beautiful, the food was great, everything was amazing, as it is here tonight as well. But there wasn't a lot of dignity on display. because even though Trump was more than an hour away, people who were wealthy in their own right, 60, 70-year-old multimillionaires, people who are famous, whose names you would know if I mentioned them, were jockeying for position on the velvet rope, shouldering their way in between other people in the hope of shaking this man's hand. Well, I don't have to do that sort of thing. He calls me up. And he said, Topher, I've heard about this NYET ZERO launch, and I want to be there. Well, that sounded like an offer I couldn't refuse. So I didn't refuse. And I'm very, very pleased to say, ladies and gentlemen, would you please give a rousing welcome to Donald Trump. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen.
Look at his shoes. He's so cool. His eyes so black. His eyes so blue. He's so great. His eyes so black. His eyes so blue. He's so cool. Fell down the stairs. It's great, really great. It is the greatest thing, Topher. Topher, great to see you again. Here in Ass Trailer. What a great, great place you got, Topher. I know I expected there to be a lot more wind here, a lot of hot air. And my driver picked up some keys from Chinatown. He said I should pass them on. It'll get you anywhere in the Parliament House, anywhere at all. Anyway, but it's, as I say, it's great. I've known this guy, what, 25, 30 minutes? Great guy, great guy.
Mr. Trump, President Trump, I don't mean to be rude, but I do recall you being a little, just a fraction taller.
Oh, sure. Well, that all comes down, Topher. That comes down to the IPCC modeling and consensus, because Antarctica, CO2 plays tricks with the light. You know, the light plays tricks. Because in New York, I'm 6'4". You know that. Everybody knows that. But here in the Southern Hemisphere, Ass Trailer, I'm 4'6". Yeah. Where's Malcolm? Malcolm?
Senator Roberts. Hey.
Malcolm, buddy, you come to New York, you would tower over Jim Comey. True. Beautiful. I love this guy. Anyway, as I said, I thought it'd be a lot windier than what it is here, because as I was coming through the private jet lounge, some smart Alex talking wind turbines. I couldn't forget what they said, because they know it's all bull. You know that. I know that. Everybody knows that. Turn bull into billions, they said. Turn bull into billions. Gold, man. Sacks of it. Yeah, that's what I heard. But I'm here in Ass Trailer for two things. One, for this event, say NYET to NYET ZERO. Right. We all know that. Because I love Russia. Everybody knows I love Russia. Oh yeah, I love them so much that I actually got America energy independent so we could be their greatest competitors. I love them so much that I told Germany not to rely on them. That's how much I love Russia. But some down-under Democrat apparently thinks that Putin is my NYET hero. Oh yeah. The other reason I'm here is to buy kangaroos. That's true. Oh yeah. Kangaroos for American wildlife parks. Reason is, since my candidacy was announced, okay, kangaroos across America have been kidnapped and placed in courtrooms right across America, right? That's true. Oh yeah. So when when you hear SNBC, meaning mainstream, nothing but crap, when that media says that Crooked Joe is leaping in the polls, right? Up in the polls by leaps and bounds, you know it's all through kangaroo courts. So the other reason, of course, is, as I said, we've got a problem in America. You've got a big moat around Australia. We've got a southern border. And just the other week, I was down there in Texas on the southern border. And of course, as soon as Crooked Joe's people found out that I was going there, they had to go there. And then they told Joe that I was at the hot spot. He wasn't. I said, really? How hot? How many people got through where I was? They said, well, sir, do you want to know Chinese, Nicaraguans, Iranians, Russians, Venezuelans? He said, no, just give me a total. I said, well, a couple of thousand, sir. Okay. What about where I was? He said, one Brazilian. He said, well, there you go. Shows you how sharp my brain is. Even I know that a Brazilian's a lot more than a couple of thousand. So I don't know exactly what he was doing, but he walked off into a corner.
President Trump, that's fascinating, but I'd like to bring things back a little bit to
Sure.
the more here and now.
Yes.
We're all very interested to know what you're looking for in a vice presidential pick. I don't expect you to tell us who's on your mind, but what sort of a person are you looking for?
Well, when it comes to Vice President Topher, that job cannot be beat by the greatest president of Vice America's ever known, and that was our former vice president, because he knew Vice like nobody else. He's taken that right into the presidency. So he's a vice president and a president at the same time. But if I had the chance, because I've looked this up, I've found out that your CSIRO does stuff with gene technology, right? We all know that. So if I could get, you're slow, but you're there. If I could get some genetic engineering and combine Ralph Bibbett and John Ruddick together, I wouldn't look no further for a deputy, right? That's the kind of vice I want, a deputy.
Well, that's a terrifying thought, Mr. President. Now, I do have one.
It is.
I do have one favour to ask you, and I know you've already done a favour coming all the way over here just to attend this gala launch. But would you do me a favour, when you are sworn in, when you win the next election, when you are sworn in again, would you be kind enough, when you show up for that inauguration, to show up and announce to the world that you identify as a woman, wear a dress, and you will then become the first female president of the United States. And in that moment, I want there to be a camera showing Hillary Clinton's face close up so we can see the exact moment when her brain goes. Would you do that for me?
That's an interesting concept, Hover. I promised that I would cut taxes, right? I'm prepared to cut problems at the border, but some things I'm not prepared to cut. But having said that, right? Having said that, which I just did, if you paid attention. Having said that, you don't need to now. You just say, that's what you are, and you are. Yeah, and no one can say you ain't, because you are. So, Topher, to answer your question, if it meant that real women around the world could remember the dignity they deserve, right? To be able to answer without hesitation the question, what is a woman? Topher, I would wear a dress, a muumuu, a tutu, or go buck naked, whatever the hell it took, okay? For my inauguration.
Ladies and gentlemen, President Trump.
Thank you.
I feel like something was different, but I can't put my finger on what it was. It's just Is that the President Trump you get when you buy your President Trump from Wish? Is that like the Chinese? I'm not sure. I'm confused. Anyway, we are here to talk about CO2, not American politics, and thank God we can move on from hybrid JRs and President Babettes. Let's not talk about that ever again. We're here to talk about CO2, and I could think of no one better to invite onto the stage to bring us up to speed with actually the gift that is CO2, the life-changing, world-changing powers that CO2 have, and the absolute joy that it is that we are able now, we've figured out how to put more of it into our atmosphere. The person that sprang to mind, and thankfully she said yes, was veteran science communicator, long-time climate change blogger, and someone I've been privileged enough to call a friend since 2012, Joanne Nova. Ladies and gentlemen. Come on up, find your way around. Joe, welcome. What a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. Do you want me to sit here? Or
Yeah, take a seat, take a seat. Should we have had a higher coffee table for you, or is that's okay? All right. Now, Joe, we met in 2012 because I was doing a documentary called The 50 to 1 Project, and I interviewed yourself and a bunch of others and put that project together. And I can remember you and I had a little chat, and we said, how many more years can this climate change nonsense go for? It's got to be on its last legs. Come on, the science is in. This is so ridiculous that there are people still banging on about this. Well, 12 years later, I'm starting to think maybe we got that one a bit wrong.
Yes and no. I think we won the science, just hardly anybody knows it, but we won it a long time ago. Those who understand the evidence and who look at the evidence can see that, and in fact they knew it, and it's like 20 years ago. And ever since then, it's just one big theatre. It's all an act.
Now, you've been following this closely in detail for, I'm not going to say how many years, you probably wouldn't appreciate it, but you've been following it for a long time, and you are one of the greatest minds in Australia when it comes to having been across this topic for this long. So can you bring us up to speed? What is CO2 to our planet? And what's going on? What's this really all about when we see this war on CO2?
Ladies and gentlemen, I've got some bad news, and we stand here after 10,000 years of struggle, of blood, sweat and tears and death and disease, and we are the children. We got the luckiest country on earth, the luckiest time to be alive. We won the jackpot, the luckiest species in the solar system, and we are screwing it up. It's pretty bad.
I promised them fun.
Well,
I promised them a good night.
We are going to have fun with it. I mean, think about it. Dinosaurs ran things for 130 million years. They didn't even have Netflix. What kind of a win was that? I mean, you know, they got home from work and nothing to do. And then there was a time primordial slime ruled. But really, what use was that? They call that the boring billion. Seriously, that's a scientific term, the boring billion years that primordial slime ran the world. But what was the point of being the top of the food chain if you didn't even know there was a food chain?
It's true. Very unsatisfying.
So we won this cosmic lottery. We are the luckiest. Cavemen ran the earth for 100,000 generations. I mean, the times are just awesome. And only 3 generations ago, people were still chopping wood and dying of dysentery. And yet here we are, and our biggest problem is, you know, have we lost our Facebook password?
You need a password manager. That's what I keep being told every time I lose and reset my password.
Apparently that was the big fear of teenagers today, losing their Facebook password. Or their TikTok or whatever.
I'm just thinking, how many dinosaurs lost their passwords? I'm guessing not many. I'm guessing it wasn't an issue for them.
I don't think TikTok lets them on.
Yeah, true. I mean, when I say dinosaurs, I mean like 90-year-olds. Any dinosaurs in here that are on TikTok? There's a few. And you're not on TikTok, are you, Hoodie? No. Okay. All right. Alrighty, Joe. Here's one you prepared earlier. Take us through it. Tell us the story.
If I can get the numbers right. Excuse me. I'll just still center stage for 1 minute, Topher. But I'm not very good at this. Ah, there it is.
The real CO2 crisis, ladies and gentlemen, because there is a CO2 crisis, and you're all going, boo, that's just... There is a CO2 crisis. We don't have enough of it.
Yeah.
So, yes, the potted history of the Earth, 100,000 generations of humans living on the edges of the savannah with hardly anything, hardly any energy, and we got it. We won that jackpot. And we get everything, trips around the world that they couldn't even dream of. We can do it all, but we are risking it. We are screwing it up. Now, people don't realise, but way, way back, the forest, the gift of the forest, we're talking 400 million years ago. Those forests left us a gift, buried underground here in Australia and other places, but mostly here in Australia. And that gift was life-giving coal, CO2 embedded down underneath in the vaults, 150,000 megatons of 30 megajoules per kilo. Thank you very much. And it sat there for 200 million years just waiting for us to want to fly to Bali. And you're thinking, this woman is so stupid. Sorry. Yeah, you're thinking this woman is so stupid because planes don't use coal. That's trains and she's mixing them up. But how would we have invented planes if we didn't have coal to keep the lights on at the universities, which used to work, so that we could invent planes? Coal was that transition from the medieval times of chopping wood to the freedom to have people dedicated to study weird things like planes. So coal gave us that freedom, and we've got 300 years of it sitting underground in Australia. Most people don't know that. And when I say 300 years, I'm talking about if we keep burning it at the current rate we're burning it, and I think we earned like $100 billion out of selling it to China and other places last year or the year before, if we keep digging it up at the same rate, we can keep going for 300 years, and we'll probably find some more by then, so we could keep going some more. But it's just an insanely huge resource, but we are choosing not to use it. Well, we sell it to the Chinese, but we just don't use it ourselves. Kind of some strange hair shirt, weird sacrificial thing. So now, yes, I love this shot. This is the we are screwing it up in a big way. The train wreck, kind of. Now, most people don't realise, but the truth is we are carbon life forms, and think about how silly it is, because we are carbon life forms trying to eradicate carbon. We're in a war with carbon, and yet we depend on carbon in all forms. And this, I know this is dinner, and here I am showing you a graph. I'm sorry, I'm such a science nerd. Bear with me, because this is so cool. There is 500 million years on this graph, and it is carbon dioxide. Now, the levels today are that red line down the bottom. That's what we're all panicking about, 400 parts per million or 420 parts per million, whatever. You look at 500 million years of history, and it was almost always higher. Now, the awesome thing, see this point where there's a big dive, that huge plummet from like 4,000 parts per million down to nothing? That was evolution. That was the great boreal forests of Earth. And they discovered carbon dioxide was this wonderful stuff they can build trees with, and they sucked that carbon out of the sky and got really good at it, and those carbon dioxide levels plummeted. So that is life on Earth, sucking that carbon down and turning into forests, which then became coal, which we're using to power the economy and all the EVs and everything else. And this is plant growth at different levels of CO2. And look, this isn't even very serious. It only goes up to 800 parts per million there on the end. And you can see plants just love it. The more CO2 they get, the better. I'm told probably you don't want it to be over 2,000. The warnings are about 5,000 is too much. And current levels are 420. In other words, we are living in a CO2-starved world. Yeah. There's just nowhere near enough CO2 for plants. They want to grow faster and faster, greener and happier, if we can just give them more like 1,000 parts per million, maybe 2,000. And they've known this forever. I know, it's a second graph. I'm sorry, this is the last one. It's risky on a Saturday night, but you know, like I'm such a science nerd, Topher. This is a field in Ohio of corn from 1954, so I'm even showing you a really old graph. But this just shows how well we know this stuff. This is dawn on the left-hand side of the graph, and the CO2 levels are high, sort of 400 to 600 parts per million in this field of corn in Ohio. By 10 a.m. in the morning, by morning tea, that corn has lit up because the sun came up and it has used the sun power to suck out that CO2. It's run out of CO2 by 10 o'clock in the morning. Now, hands up the gardeners in here. People who like to plant, no, you've got to plant the plants where they get the morning sun, right? How is the morning sun different to the afternoon sun? I mean, like really, it's the same sun. The afternoon sun, there's not much CO2. The morning sun, all that CO2's come out of the soil overnight. So the plants facing the morning sun will grow twice as fast as the ones facing the afternoon sun. Now, I say, on behalf of all the plants and the corn, Topher, those poor plants, they're screaming, they're starving. They sit there for like 18 hours a day doing nothing. They can't grow.
You know, Joe,
And they just want CO2.
I've heard a rumour. Have you ever bought a pot plant from Bunnings and it just goes ahead and dies? Yeah. I've heard that every time your neighbour drives their EV, a pot plant dies. It's a tragedy.
It's tragic. Well, on behalf of all the plants of the world, I say burn more oil. Feed the world. On behalf of the starving people of Haiti, burn that oil, feel proud of yourself, burn the coal, set it free.
You know, Joe, causation does not necessarily equal, correlation, does not necessarily equal causation, but I can't help but notice that the graphs that we've all seen, the hockey sticks that show, you know, the acceleration in the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, almost precisely matches human prosperity. That must be a coincidence, right?
It is true. There are graphs of GDP and CO2 emissions, and it's a line. It's a straight line. And yes, the countries with the richest and longest lifespan and the cleanest air burn more carbon, more coal, producing more CO2. And here's a weird thing. Did you know the word carbon comes from the Latin for coal? So it all began with coal. Sorry, more trivia for a Saturday night. It's tough, isn't it? Sorry. Anyway, just getting... Oh, now look, here's one we can have fun with, Topher. You know how they keep telling us carbon is pollution? It's like it's been a mantra, hasn't it? We're raising our kids on the idea that carbon is pollution. We teach them that in schools. Well, think about it. Carbon is such a pollutant that you can buy it for sale in bottles. And market gardeners do. It's the only pollution they buy in a bottle to pump into their greenhouse market gardens to make plants grow. Can you think of any other pollutant on the planet that we would buy and pay money for to feed to plants?
I can go one better. We buy bottles of it to inject it into our water, and it makes us like the water better.
I love it.
It makes it sparkly.
You know, there's weird scientists out there who say that actually we need more CO2 in our blood and we are deprived of CO2. And they talk about people hyperventilating because they breathe too fast, getting ADHD and asthma and all kinds of things. It's a bit out there. But the idea is that CO2 is actually good for our blood and that if breathing techniques,
up to a point.
thousands of years old, breathing techniques, they build CO2 in people's blood. It's weird, I know. It's a bit radical, but you're not allowed to say these things these days. You'll be called a weirdo. There's the market gardens and the CO2. Now, they pump into those market gardens up to like 1,500 parts per million, and they get crop growth 30 and 40%. Well, not just a 5% boost, but a third more that they can sell. And yet we call CO2 pollution. It just shows, as you said, the reframing. You can reframe anything.
Well, the rebranding is strong on this issue.
We are carbon life forms and we're made of pollution. Oh, and if, of course, anyone here have a fish tank, I know I'm probably the only weird nerd who has a fish tank, but if you want the plants to grow in your fish tank, you know what you do? You pump CO2 into the fish tank. That's right. More pollution makes the plants grow. All right. And look, just to finish up on this little point, this is what we're aiming for, ladies and gentlemen, decarbonised planet. That is a photo of a decarbonised planet. That is Mars.
Yep.
So that's what we want with our national science policies, is to create Mars, a decarbonised planet. All
Well,
right,
Joe, thank you so much. And yeah, ladies and gentlemen. So Joe's going to be joining us again a little bit later. She's going to be helping me to hand out some awards to some CO2 heroes. That's coming up a little bit later in the evening. But Joe, you take your seat, you enjoy a little bit more of your evening, because we're going to hear another piece of music, a musical item from one of the wonderful, the musicians that played for you as you came in. Weren't they fantastic? So we heard first from Mandy Ragg on the guitar, and then we heard from Eleanor Parry. She was the one who was playing the keyboard. Now, both of those lovely young musicians have been invited here because of songs that they have written in the past. And they're both going to be performing for us here tonight. We're starting right now with Eleanor Parry. And Eleanor, I invite you to come out when you're ready. I invite you to come out when you're ready, take your place at the keyboard. And we're going to hear from Eleanor Parry a wonderful, wonderful version that she has created of Big Yellow Taxi. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for Eleanor Parry.
Hello. It's so wonderful to be here and to have this, platform to be able to share this song a little bit wider. So please enjoy. This is our paradise, and they're putting up big power lines with towers and cables and a whole lot of warning signs. And don't it always seem to go that you don't know what they'll take till it's gone? It's our paradise, and they're putting up big power lines. Now this is the part in the song, if anyone knows Joni Mitchell, that goes, ooh, bop, bop, bop. And I would really love it if you can be my non-paid backing vocals for tonight that can help me out. So we're going to have a little bit of a run through. So it's going to go, ooh, bop, 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 ooh, bop, bop, bop. I think we can do much better than that. Ralph Barbette, I can see you. I didn't see you sing then. Let's try it again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ooh, bop, 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 ooh, yeah. They'll destroy the crops and the trees to bring power to cities. Not sure what they'll leave us, but we know it won't be pretty. And don't it always seem to go that you don't know what they'll take till it's gone? It's our paradise, and they're putting up big power lines. Bop, 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 boo, good. Hey, farmer, farmer, you're our main food provider. So let's leave them in peace, along with the birds and the bees. Please, don't it always seem to go that you don't know what they'll take till it's gone? It's our paradise, and they're putting up big power lines. Yeah. It's not too late to fight, we gotta make a stand. That's why we're all here. We won't let the offshore men control our land. And don't it always seem to go that you don't know what they'll take till it's gone? It's our paradise, and they're putting up big power lines. Bop, bop, bop. And don't it always seem to go that you don't know what they'll take till it's gone? It's our paradise, and they're putting up big power lines. Yeah, said it's your paradise, and they're putting up big wind turbines. Everyone's paradise, and they're putting up big power lines. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Eleanor Parry, come on over. I saw this song online with this incredible video clip that was a really well done parody of the Big Yellow Taxi. Join me here in the middle. of the Big Yellow Taxi video clip, of course. What was the band from the original song?
Joni Mitchell?
Okay, that'll do. Honestly, when I heard you say that before, I was like, oh, I don't think I've heard of them before. I'm clearly not a music person.
Joni Mitchell did the original version, and then Counting Crows come along in the 90s with Vanessa Carlton. She did 1,000 Miles, for anyone who knows that song. And they redid it in the 90s. So we originally were going to do one like the Counting Crows, and then in rehearsal we were kind of like, no, let's stick with the Joni Mitchell one.
All right, you know an awful lot more about music than I do, clearly. All right. So this is an issue that's really close to your heart. You haven't just written a random song. Where are you from? And what was it that you saw that made you go, hey, I'm going to write a song about this?
Yeah, so I'm from a small country town called St Arnaud in north central Victoria. Yeah!
I've actually been there. I can say hand on heart, I have actually been there.
I love it. They got great fish and chips there. Yeah, so...
That's a claim to fame if ever I heard one.
Johnny's Fish and Chips. Yeah, and about almost a year ago, it come out that AEMO are putting out proposed transmission lines through our wonderful community, and our family farm was actually in the middle of that proposed path. Now, at the time, we were in the first kind of phase, so we were in the 50-kilometre corridor. They changed, Plan A. We were in all of them, and we actually did this song because no one was talking about it. Unless you were affected, no one knew what was going on. So we wanted to give the community, because we were all frustrated, running out of steam. How did we fight, big companies? So we wanted to get that conversation happening. So we were like, hey, it was footy finals at the time, we're coming into the blooming canola crop. And I was like, let's do a cover of this song. And then from there, this project just grew and grew and grew. And we reworded the lyrics so it suited our own topic. We went and filmed in the canola crop. We went up in a plane to get all these shots. And it just went massive. And we put it out on social media. I was petrified, but it's, I'm here today. So it's obviously, getting that conversation happening. It's
absolutely brilliant. We'll get you to tell people how to find you. Yeah, please.
Thank you.
It's interesting you say you couldn't get traction with this issue. No one cared unless it really affected them. I've got to say, in my 15 years of political commentary, that has been the theme from the very start. And the silver lining of COVID is, as devastating as it was for so many people, lots of people got affected. Mm-hmm. And as a result, a lot more people than ever before are starting to pay attention. And that's what we need to capitalize on. What's been the response to the song? It's been unbelievable. Lots of people have now been educated. We've had really good feedback. People are interested. Very little criticism. In fact, if anything, it's more curiosity. They're like, why are you speaking out about this issue? Which is what we want. We want that conversation to happen. So it's been a really good response. We've had lots and lots of shares. I think, I'm an artist who had 300 followers on my music page and we've had 75,000 views. It's been unreal just on social media on that platform. So it's getting out there. It's doing its job. A lot of people see issues and never do anything about them. And a lot of people that do try and do something, either it kind of falls flat, or a lot of people actually talk themselves out of doing anything because they just kind of preemptively go, oh, well, it won't make a difference, it won't help, it won't work. Why did you choose to spend that time? I mean, obviously you wanted to talk about it affected you personally, but that's a different thing to then, instead of saying, oh, this sucks, you said, I'm gonna speak. Yeah. I mean, if we don't, we just get transmission lines anyway. So it's worth putting up a bit of a fight. But again, our community was frustrated. We're farmers, so we're in that farming community. So I saw how it was directly affecting those people, and I know it's wrong. I couldn't live with that, so I wanted to do something. I wanted to get some awareness, and hopefully if enough people talk about this, enough people can see what's going to happen, and we can turn this plan around. It's not too late, and that's why we did the video, to show it's not too late. 100%. I love your phrase there. I knew it was wrong, so I did something. Boy, we could use a lot more of that in this world, couldn't we? Not, I knew it was wrong, so I decided to complain. I decided to make a Facebook post. No, you actually did something. Now, Eleanor, last question. Where can people find you? Yeah, so check out Eleanor Parry Music on Instagram. You'll find everything there. We've been to a couple of Sydney, Canberra. You'll see me around tonight filming things, so you'll be able to you might see yourself on there. So Eleanor Parry Music on Instagram. You can see all the songs, all the behind-the-scenes work that went into it. And yeah,
come say hello to me tonight. I'm around all night.
Ladies and gentlemen, Eleanor Parry.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Congratulations. Excuse me while I juggle microphones and cue cards and the schedules and everything else. All right. Time check. Always a scary thing, by the way. Terrifying thing. Okay, not too bad. Not too bad. All right, how are you enjoying your evening so far? You enjoying the drinks? You've had your entree? Have mains been served or are they still coming? Still coming? All right, I'm sure they're not far away. So long as you're enjoying your evening, that's fantastic. I want to talk a little bit about what's in the room. I mentioned earlier there's this clash of industrial and flowers. We're seeing pictures of fires, Ash Wednesday up there, and now the building of the Hume Weir on these the projectors down the back of the room. And we're looking into the history of this country, the achievements of this country, represented by the items on your table and represented by the images on those screens. What does that have to do with flowers? Well, number one, flowers are pretty, and they smell a lot better than I do, so I figured you'd want a lot of them in the room. And also, if we burn enough CO2, if we create enough CO2 in the atmosphere, guess what we get more of? Flowers. So it's a direct relationship, it's a direct correlation from one to the other. You might notice, the keen-eyed among you may notice, that I took the black tie thing quite literally tonight, the black tie dress code. And I have, in fact, dressed up as a lump of coal. You're welcome. Now, to complete the theme, though, I didn't just dress up as a lump of coal. Oh, no. I have, inside my cuff of my cuffs, flowers. You can't see them from there, but I assure you, I have flowers on the inside of my cuffs. So I am a one-man history lesson in the value and the power of the Industrial Revolution to turn coal into the beautiful flowers that you see before you. Now, I do want to draw particular attention to the item on this table here. I'm not going to jump down and grab it, but it is, in fact, a bomb. No, not joking. That's actually a bomb. I am assured that it has been diffused. If anyone would like to test it, please do so much, much later in the evening when the rest of us have gone home. But it is interesting to think that man's activities, including the awful activities like war, do contribute to putting plant food into the atmosphere. Wildfires return a bunch of plant food back into the atmosphere, directly from plants in that case. But when we get coal, when we get oil, when we get any of these things, we're putting plant food back into the atmosphere. And what's amazing about that is that it means that each and every one of us has, in our own small way, a little bit of power, a little bit of ability to contribute directly to returning plant food back to the atmosphere. It's what I call being a CO2 hero. So our NYET ZERO CO2 heroes are the people who choose to actively work to return CO2 back into the atmosphere. Because I don't know about you, but you know that scene from whatever movie that was, those are rookie numbers, you've got to pump those numbers up. When I see that CO2 is 420 parts per million, I just look at that and go, you know what that is, rookie numbers. We've got to pump those numbers up. I reckon we've got to head for 1,000 parts per million, just about as fast as we can. And I've got some suggestions on how we can do that. Under this car cover over here, you're going to find one of my suggestions. Now, we might need, actually, you know what? We won't go with house lights. We'll leave them exactly as they are. This wonderful, wonderful machine has been provided by a man named Paul, who's going to join me now. And I want this to inspire you to really cast a positive vision about what life could be like if you really took this mission to get CO2 levels up to 1,000 parts per million seriously. Look at the green vision, eating bugs, living on rationed energy, and now look at what life could be like if you joined our crusade to say NYET to net zero and help us achieve 1,000 parts per million. Now, Paul, we're going to reveal this in just a second. How proud are you of this accomplishment, of what you've built? You built this, did you not?
Yeah, it's taken 3 years to build up. Bits and pieces out of the backyard, pretty much. It runs on a 302 motor out of XR8. Blows plenty of smoke.
Blows plenty of smoke. I like the sound of that. Now, I've got to say, 3 years per vehicle, there's quite a lot of us in here. If all of us ordered one, we would be keeping you busy for a very long time. Can you increase capacity? Can you pump those numbers up?
We can do one now in 6 months. So exactly what you see today, you can have.
All right, 1 in 6 months. Well, I tell you what, you're going to retire very rich. We're going to keep you busy for a good couple of years from in here. Now, Paul, would you just help me to take this car cover off and compare, if you will, the vision of the world that has been given to us by the Green Lobby versus a vision of a world where this could be your contribution that makes you a NYET Zero CO2 hero. I think that we offer the world a much more interesting vision of the future. Thank you so much, Paul. We offer the world a much more interesting vision of the future than what the Greens do. See, I think all that we've achieved in the past is worthy of celebration, and creations like this are worthy of celebration. What an absolutely astonishing machine. Paul's with us all night. I encourage you to go and have a chat with him about it afterwards. It is a genuine running hot rod that tours all over Australia, displays all over Australia, and I was so very fortunate to come across Paul at exactly the right time, and he's very, very graciously brought it here for us tonight. Can we get another round of applause for Paul and this incredible, incredible machine? So we need to turn our attention now to how we can all contribute to this NYET Zero cause. How can we all do our bit to make sure that NYET Zero, we're going to turn our attention to awarding people who have contributed a lot already to this NYET Zero cause. This is what we call our NYET Zero CO2 Hero Awards. And I'm going to get Joe Nova back up here, my lovely assistant, to help me give these awards. These are the NYET Zero Awards for emitting CO2. These are prestigious. These are basically the Oscars of fossil fuels. Now, Joe, I have some envelopes here. If you can grab those, I'm not sure how many hands you have, but there's a microphone and there's a bunch of envelopes, and you're going to have to juggle them as you go. However, we start with number 5. We're counting from the bottom. We're going up. But before we get to the actual awards, I want to start with an honourable mention. The amount of CO2 emitted wasn't enough to really justify actually giving them an award. But I just want to say, the way that not Adam Band, who's the green that's been jetting around? It is Adam Band. There you go. I was right. I second-guessed myself, and I shouldn't have. Adam Band gets an honourable mention. And if he just steps up his efforts and gets a few more private jet miles in next year, then he might, in fact, be one of the 5 award recipients. A little bit more effort, Adam, and you too could be on this list. So let's find out. For 2024, for the inaugural NYET Zero Gala, Joe Nova, I don't have any drums, no drum roll, but who is the 5th placed NYET Zero CO2 hero?
It is Al Gore.
Al Gore, ladies and gentlemen. Now, Al Gore deserves an enormous amount of credit, because back in, I believe it was 2009, he was criticized for having a house that emitted about 11 to 13 times more CO2 than a typical house. He argued back and said, but we also have a home office. Well, a lot of us have home offices, Al. We don't have private chefs necessarily and an entire staff. That's sort of more the difference there. But actually, Al is so committed to the cause that in a more recent study, he was found to be emitting up to 34 times a normal house's amount of CO2, or using 34 times more energy. So I think that level of commitment is worthy of our 5th place award. What do you reckon?
Cheers to Al Gore.
All right. And our 4th place NYET Zero CO2 Hero Award winner is
Elon Musk.
Elon Musk. Now, Elon Musk is a remarkable man by any measure, but I absolutely love that he really has combined the best of both worlds, profiteering off the stupidity of the green left with Tesla, whilst launching rockets into space. And I think my absolute favorite achievement of his was when he launched a Tesla into space. I just think that that is the absolute pinnacle of absurdity. I absolutely love this man. I can't make head nor tail of him, but I absolutely love him, and he's our 4th place NYET ZERO CO2 hero for this year.
We all hope that our children can grow up to burn as much fuel as Elon Musk.
He produces more CO2 in a single Starlink launch than most of us do in a lifetime, and I just think, God bless him, more power to him. We need more of that. So, Joe,
Let's aim for parties in space. You think?
parties. Well, let's have a NYET ZERO Gala on Mars after Elon figures out how to get us there and back again. All right, the back again bit's important. Joe, our number 3 NYET ZERO CO2 hero is Vladimir Putin, ladies and gentlemen. Now, this might seem like a strange one, but as is represented by this bomb with flowers on it, as much as wars are human tragedies, let's just put that aside, put that small matter aside for a moment. From the point of view of plants, it's a double whammy. They get more CO2 from the atmosphere, and in the localized area, they get more fertilizer in the ground. So from the plant's point of view, I told you there'd be no political correctness. Don't get mad at me now. From a plant's point of view, a war is a double win. And Vladimir Putin has earned his place at number 3 on our CO2 hero list. All right, we're getting to the pointy end. We're getting to the pointy end. Starting to get stressed here. Joe,
Number 2.
who is our NYET ZERO CO2 hero number 2 winner?
I can't say it properly. It is the
Darvaza crater. Oh, yes.
So this is the one in...
AKA the gates of hell. You can have a look at the picture right there.
One. Yes, Darvaza crater in Turkmenistan.
In Turkmenistan. Now, this, I have to say, you know the history of this, don't you?
Like,
Tell us about it.
Someone set it on fire like 50 years ago and it's still burning.
They literally thought, they had this gas coming out of the ground. It was creating a problem, and they thought, we'll just light it. It'll burn itself out in a couple of months at the most. It is still burning. You can go up next to it and take photos. But I think that crater is quite possibly going to outlive the human species in terms of just burning basically forever. We clearly have no idea what we were doing. And I just love the idea that some bloke was there in a high-vis vest and a hard hat, and they were talking about what to do about this massive sinkhole, and he's got a durry in his hand, and he just flicks it. Boom! Number 2. Now, Joe, you are my lovely assistant, but I do have another assistant. The not lovely assistant is what I call them, not to their face. And I have the absolute pleasure of taking that one off you and saying thank you for your services. You may head back to your table. Ladies and gentlemen, Joe Nova. Because these awards are so prestigious, we have, of course, got a celebrity who is going to present this award on our behalf. And so, to present the absolutely prestigious NYET ZERO CO2 Hero #1 winner award at this inaugural launch, we have procured the services of Australia's foremost wind power protagonist. He is the Professor Emeritus of Hockey Stick Online University and leader of the country's most pragmatic political party, the New Greens. It is none other than the Right Honourable Dr. Mervyn Forward, BS, PhD. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together. Yeah, I'm good. I think I need to get a new agent, a new talent agent for my next event. Yeah. So the award winner is inside that envelope there for you. Yep. Ladies and gentlemen, Mervyn Forward.
Well, there's a nice little green room back there, Tofu. I tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, and those who aren't sure. Tonight, I have the pleasure, as this country's principal climate scientist and leader of the New Greens, to introduce the one man in the bloody world, probably, that the world owes more to than anyone else. If not, he sure as hell's trying to make it that way. I got an introduction for you here, Tofu, so don't worry. His formative years were moulded in a time of tyranny. As a child whose father toiled in a Nazi factory of enforced slave labour. Granted, he was the manager, but nonetheless, it wasn't an easy life, especially for the workers. To compensate for any lack of work, health and safety clause in employment contracts, at that time his dear old dad named his own son Claus to acknowledge the oversight. Young Claus, no doubt at the time, would have noted, I know he's in here, no doubt he would have noted how the third industrial revolution focused on keeping the few at the top happy, even though the rest would own nothing. But then those at the top could still be happy. So while other little boys dreamed of a great train set for Christmas, young Claus dreamed of a great reset. Could the soothing sound of neighbourhood goose steps inspire that idea of future locksteps? Eh? And rightly so, because with mentors like Henry Kissinger, never did find out who that was, probably a few, with Henry Kissinger, you soon learn that real power doesn't go to an office built on votes. No, it's an office bought with notes, banknotes. With a little help from the Club of Rome and the odd banking institution, he soon became much like his mythical namesake, jetting around the world, delivering gifts. That's why I call him Santa Claus. Some may see Santa as an anagram, and with real claws. But to me, he's a chip off the old block from the land of chocks and clocks. Soon we're going to meet him, but I got to say, mate, I've been held up accused of mispronouncing his name. They say it should be Klaus, like in house, not Claus, like in, well, not house. Tonight, he joins us from the Swiss-based cyberspace, to receive this award for inspiring the greatest fleet of flying CO2 generating factories ever to exist. Yes, to accept this net zero CO2 hero award I give you reliably via reliably generated power. Hang on.
Thank you.
Hang on, you get
Very
hello,
nice
mate.
to see you again too after our meeting in Davos.
Oh, geez, you're here already. Santa, we got some people. Can we ask you some questions?
Of course, by all means.
Good.
I am honored by this award, but it would be remiss of me to not acknowledge the support of so many quiet, carbon contributors, the modern-day suffragettes.
Suffragettes, I'm not with
Yeah, they suffer a jet flight.
Oh, right.
Suffer a jet flight at great personal cost to ensure copious quantities of carbon dioxide are produced in far greater amounts than any paltry emission of some useless blitter.
Bloody good point.
And future generations of cyber humanoids will thank climate czars like John Kerry, for instance. He's a VIP, you know.
Oh, very important person, I know that.
Virtually irreplaceable propagandist.
Oh, sorry.
But yes, you are correct. As he says himself, he's a very, very important person, contributing more CO2 per week, flying in his private jets, than come from most third world countries within a year. And that, Doctor, defines self-sacrifice, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely, Santa. But with all this philanthropy, mate, all these folk here, how do they get in on it?
Well, personally, I organize the WF
Yeah?
to exact a perpetual income stream, from all believers. That is tax-free, with diplomatic immunity, of course.
Nice.
And a Swiss guard. Sound familiar?
Yes, Your Eminence.
But if that is not possible for you, then I suggest trading offsets.
Trading offsets, what do you mean?
Yeah. First, start a tax-free foundation.
Right.
So what you should pay in tax, you spend on yourself. Second, invest in trading offsets.
I like
And
that.
third, claim that you are saving the planet. It's all the rage.
Would be.
This way, you can convince the ignorant you are saving them, while at the same time burn more electricity to heat your pool than all of Tennessee. It does take some creative arithmetic, quite a bit of dancing around, with the computer modeling. Have you asked Al Gore?
Computer with algorithm.
Yeah, never thought of that.
It's yours, mate.
But also, Doctor, talk to your own political leaders, present and past.
Right.
President Albanese, he knows how to produce CO2, flying to billionaires' gala dinners, red carpet events, very red. We sat next to each other at a party just last month, and he told me a joke. He said, do you know the name of the biggest rock that owns the heart of Australia? What is it called?
Oh, Uluru.
9. Black Rock. Quite the joker, yeah?
What a joke.
Also, that fellow,
Oh, I know
sounds
you
like
mean.
a turbine.
Yeah, I know you
Has
mean.
much knowledge of financial schemes also. But in Australia, you're doing wonderful things, supporting the farming, assault and battery agenda. Have you awarded your people there yet, Doctor?
Nah, Santa, but for the people here, what is the farming, assault and battery agenda?
Well, as proven on my Yuval Do, as Yuval be told, computer model, arable farmland stripped bare can produce perfect salt flats, ideal for bases of turbines built taller than the birds,
That's tall,
and all linked together to fill intermittent batteries with intermittent power. Hence, farming a salt and battery agenda.
Gotcha.
Genius, but we do have big shoes to fill, yeah?
With big carbon footprints, mate. Yeah?
Yeah. And it took a strong man to convince the world that what is free or necessary for life should be taxed as poison. Maurice Strong, actually. Shame he got himself caught pilfering the oil for food pot.
Yeah.
His sister's old boyfriend was Mao, so he escaped to China, you know.
Yeah. In Australia, we call that taking the bull to the china shop.
Very good, Doctor.
I thought so.
Maurice had a real sense of the paradoxical also.
Yeah.
Just look at the first so-called Earth Day, a celebration of the centenary of Lenin's birthday, April 22, back in 1970, and it's still going, proving you can fool all of the people some of the time, on some of the people all of the time. It doesn't matter if it's invisible gas or invisible virus, the effect on the visibly ignorant is always the same. But what do you think, Doctor? Should I keep this award to myself or share it with the W Trinity?
Oh, you mean www.com?
Nein. The WEF, the WHO, and W at the gates.
Oh.
Of course, amongst ourselves, we use those nicknames, yeah?
What do they mean?
We are evil fuckers with hell's overlords and a little Willy at the gates.
That's very catchy, Santa.
Like a virus. But we haven't even scratched the surface of CO2 production by billionaires' jets just yet. Soon, our very own Fourth Reich, Fourth Industrial Revolution, will give billionaires gross profit and the public net zero. It's taken a very long time to get the world to the point they hand over everything. But in May this year, our inserted national leaders give all authority to WHO. It's bigger than reaching the moon. One small signature for a man, one giant leap for who? And you know who, don't you, Doctor?
Yeah, sounds like New Green's policy to me, mate. But once again, thank you. Getting in early, accepting this
Thank you,
award.
Doctor. But you have to excuse me. I do have a meeting.
Fair
Time to work out what to do with just in, just about out.
Oh, just in Trudeau.
Or as we call him, fake dough. Any more questions, Doctor?
If anyone asked the question, sorry, no offence, mate. Where does AI come into this?
Fair. Does AI come into this?
Yes, mate.
Surely you've known me long enough, Doctor. You jest, yes?
No, fair income.
You know, I said this revolution, this technology is designed to change you.
Yeah.
I myself am AI.
Artificial intelligence.
Absolutely insane.
It's truth. Well, bugger me, Tofu. Well, I'm sorry, mate. He wasn't for real. Just like the bloody climate emergency. I'll take his award and his money.
Next time I do a conference, use a different talent agency. Yeah. All right. How's dinner? You enjoying your mains? All right. Now, it's all very well and good to recognize the accomplishments of these big emitters, these big CO2 heroes, but it's the collective action of all of us. I mean, the socialists have been banging on about this since forever. It's the collective action of all of us. It's those little things that can really add up to make a massive difference. And so I want to invite some people onto the stage that are going to help me to figure out how could each and every one of us be CO2 heroes in our own way, in our own world, in our own lives. So would you please put your hands together for my victims, my volunteers, to join me on stage now. We're going to have a little discussion about how we can all become CO2 heroes. Put your hands together for Senator Ralph Babette, Senator Malcolm Roberts, John Ruddock MLC, and the Honourable Gary Johns. Would you please make your way up? Now please make your way up, take a seat. You're going to have 2 microphones to share. I'll give this one to you. It takes an enormous amount of courage for these men to have said yes to this. Can you imagine the nerves they're having right now?
Well, I actually didn't say yes.
I just told you to do it.
Just called my name out.
Yeah, I just told you to do it, yeah. Yeah, that's kind of how I roll. So, gentlemen, we know that CO2 is good for the planet. And if we can save the plants, then we can save the planet. For those that are challenged by this message and would like to contribute to this mission of accomplishing 1,000 parts per million CO2 as per the NYET ZERO pledge, how can ordinary people help to contribute? What do you think, gentlemen?
Well, I might just go first. I've actually got a bit of a secret. This stays in this room, obviously. But
we're not live streaming or anything. We're not live streaming.
We're not
no
recording. We're not live streaming. But Chatham House rules, in camera. Look, in my office, in Parliament House, in that big building on the hill, what I do is I secretly leave my lights on when I leave on a Friday. That's what I do.
That is what a CO2 hero looks like right there.
Well, I've had a thought. Now, I've never read the Guardian newspaper, so I don't know if it exists in paper or if it's just an online thing. But I think we should have paper mache images of Dan Andrews made out of the Guardian and burn them. That would get right.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is why this man was a federal government minister.
Bubbly for everyone.
Bubbly for everyone. That's CO2.
But Topher, I've got a little point to pick with you. United States nuclear submarines, where they've got to be very careful about what they do and how humans respond to the atmospheres in the sub, they have a limit of 0.8% in their subs, in the atmosphere in the subs. We are living under 0.04. The limit for nuclear submarines from the American Navy is 20 times what our atmospheric levels are right now.
Wow.
So I think you're underperforming.
Oh.
You need to set the target higher, not 1,000, 8,000, which is 0.8%.
Who invited him?
You did.
True. You raise a valid point.
Can I make a sobering point near the end of this, please?
Yeah, sure. End of the Fed.
Well, look, Topher, look, this is a fantastic night, so thank you so much. You know, this is the first time in Australia that we've spoken out on the pure truth. Now, can I all encourage you to not use the term climate change or global warming? It is global boiling. Okay,
Yeah.
It's very important.
Yeah.
Now, what is the best way that we can encourage more carbon dioxide in the air? And I agree with everything Jo Nova said. I mean, she's a science person, and I agree with everything she said. But I would say the number one thing that we can do is babies, 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 okay? There is a massive upside there is a huge silver lining with the global boiling delusion. And that is, stupid people believe it. And stupid people don't have babies as a result of it. So those stupid people are not going to reproduce. We've got Darwinism in live time here. And I'm saying, I know there's a lot of politically interested people here. We basically need to get back to the concept that all policy, all legislation should really be designed around having industrious people, intelligent people, reproducing for the next generation. So that's my contribution.
You're making far too much sense for this time of the evening. You've not had enough to drink. I expect you to make up for that in the next half an hour. I've got a couple of comments of my own before we come back for some more serious thoughts. I've been doing my best. I've got to be honest, I have been pulling my weight. You've all seen time and again on Slow Chats the sheer number of cigars that I have been smoking. I have done my bit for the plants by burning other plants. But I think there's a policy that we can all actually agree on. I think even the Greens are going to get behind this one. It just came to me in the night. It was a brainwave, and I think it's just one of the most genius ideas that I've ever had. We should achieve our NYET ZERO targets by increasing speed limits. And I don't mean a little bit. I mean, on the freeway, 180, 200 kilometres an hour, because, as Jo Nova, our science person, will be able to tell us, wind resistance is exponential. And so therefore, if you double the speed, you've got 4 times the wind resistance, and you need to burn 4 times the amount of fuel to maintain your speed. And I think the Greens will get behind this, because we will celebrate it for putting more CO2 into the atmosphere, and they will celebrate it because it is population reduction. So it is really a win-win. Hey? Abolish them all. All right. Now we're cooking with gas. Now we've got to... Okay, help me out here, gentlemen. Your last chance for some serious comments.
Look, being an old Labor man, and I remember my dear leader Bob Hawke, I think that in the future, no child should live without air conditioning.
Excellent. Senator Roberts, you had a comment you wanted to make?
I know this is meant to be a humorous session, but I can't turn down the opportunity to tell some facts. In 2008, we had the global financial crisis. Remember that? Apart from Australia, which continued exporting hydrocarbon fuels and iron ore, the rest of the world went into a severe recession. The amount of human carbon dioxide produced decreased dramatically. But if you look at what happened in 2009, during that recession, severe recession, almost a depression, the level of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere continued increasing. Didn't inflect, didn't miss a beat. We were told if we severely cut carbon dioxide by human activity, instead of increasing, it would start levelling out and going down very quickly. So in 2019, in Senate estimates, I asked the CSIRO a question. How come the carbon dioxide levels are in all 11 measuring stations around the world kept increasing? And I was told this response. Oh, Senator Roberts, there was an inflection. So instead of increasing like that, they increased like that. So I let it go. We don't always trap them in the first one. In 2020, we had a severe recession again around the world due to COVID restrictions. Not due to COVID, due to COVID restrictions. And again, they're still telling us that when we decrease the level of human carbon dioxide, it will start going like that, the level in the atmosphere. All 11 stations around the world that measure carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere, including Cape Grim, which is run by the CSIRO, or is it the Bureau of Meteorology, Barrow in Alaska, Mauna Loa in Hawaii, they show an unrelenting increase with the sawtooth of seasonal adjustments. So nothing changed. So I said to the CSIRO in 2022, what happened? Where's the inflection? And they came back saying, there's an inflection the moment we started coming out of recession at the end of 2021. Their answer, immediate response. The Bureau of Meteorology was asked the same question. And they said, oh, Senator Roberts, there's such a delay, you won't see that for a very long time. So the point is that carbon dioxide levels are still increasing at the same rate as they always have. The CSIRO claims that there's an inflection, but I asked them for the statistical evidence that proves it. None. It's bullshit. So I'm sad to say, Topher, that the reality is that there's nothing we can do to affect the carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere, and thank God for that. We don't want to control the climate. There's 50 to 70 times the level of the amount of carbon dioxide in the entire oceans than is in the entire Earth's atmosphere. Slight changes in the sun drive the levels of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere according to Henry's law.
Yeah.
It's all bullshit.
Yeah.
Well, look, I'll go next because I think this weekend the finest orator has been Senator Babette, and I think that we'll leave him for last. So I'll just make a quick point. Look, it is no coincidence that when communism collapsed in the late 80s and the early 90s, global warming came to life. Okay, if you had to sum up the 20th century, let's say we lived 1,000 years from now, in the year 3022, 24, and you had to sum up the 20th century, you'd say it was a battle between communism, socialism, and free enterprise. That's what you would say if you had to sum it up in one sentence. And there were, now we're not just talking about the Soviet bloc, there were the Western left, the Labor Party in this country for most of its history, not Gary Johns, but the Western left was sympathetic to communism. Gough Whitlam, who in many ways was a very impressive guy, extremely misguided, but he was an impressive guy. He would openly campaign not that long ago as a democratic socialist. And they really believed in it. They really thought that humanity could be better off, even though communism had killed 100 million people. They said, well, they just didn't do it right. Okay. Now then what happened was, in 1989, the Berlin Wall came down, and everyone remembers that. But more significantly was 2 years later, the Soviet Union imploded. Okay, there was an uprising, Boris Yeltsin, etc. Now then, at exactly the same time, the Western left said, oh, well, we can't defend socialism anymore, but we need another grand plan to have a big centralised government. And it had been, well, we've got to save the poor people. Okay, of course, communism made everybody poor, but then now it was, well, we're not going to save poor people, we're going to save the planet from burning in hell. So we need a big, massive, centralised government to stop the global boiling. And it's exactly the same people who supported socialism, democratic socialism, Christian socialism. There was a lot of that. The Labor Party was founded by Christian socialists, okay, and communists and Marxists, the whole flaming lot of them. They all jumped on board with global boiling. And, you know, I remember I was at university in 1991. In the week after, Yeltsin got up on top of the tank and brought down the Soviet Union. It was a glorious moment. And I can remember being at the bar at Sydney University, and I said, this is fantastic. There was a guy, an academic, Francis Fukuyama at the time, he said, this is the end of history.
Yeah.
This is, you know, capitalism and free markets and democracy have won, and humanity just... And I said, that is right. Obviously, we won. Because I thought the left wanted to make humanity better. But one of my mates said to me, who I thought was a conspiracy theorist at the time, he said, John, no. They will come in the back door. They will come in through something else to bring about the global, the big central government. And he was right, I was wrong, and global boiling is it. I'll hand you over to Senator Babette.
Yeah, well said, well said. I'll elaborate on that a little bit, and I'll go a little bit further. I'm going to say that the best way to organise the productive efforts of people, the best way to get people to fall into line, the best way to get you to obey is you need an outside enemy. You always need an enemy to focus the attention of the populations of any country, and it works the same in any country. The enemy can be, oh, the communists are coming, or the enemy can be, you know, I won't repeat that, but yes, you know, someone's at the gates coming in, right, to attack us, to defeat us. They have made the enemy climate change, right? And they use climate change because it's a catch-all term. It used to be global warming. And then when they realized it wasn't warming, they changed the name, like you were saying before, they rebranded it, and now it's climate change. And now anything can be climate change. Any weather is climate change. And that's a really effective way to get everyone, all of us, to obey and to accept things that we might not otherwise accept. And it's happening everywhere. Because the people that control the narrative, the people that control the world, these people are globalists. We use that word a lot, globalists. It's because they're everywhere, right? It's not just one single person. It's a whole group of people that are marching to the same tune. And they will meet up at events like the World Economic Forum events because, you know, they're all on the same page and they're all pushing the same thing. At the end of the day, what it's about control. They want control. These people have all the money in the world. These people print the money there in the banks. They don't need money. They want control. So what I'd like to say is there is a form of feudalism coming back to the West, okay? An aristocratic class is coming back, except instead of being landowners and you're a serf on the land, these people now own corporations, they own banks, they own everything, and you will be a peasant in that system. What's happened before, we're seeing again. It's all coming back, and I'd like you to think about that. The other thing I'd like you to think about is that, you know, when they say we want to cut carbon emissions, blah, 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 okay, whatever, you're a carbon-based life form, as has been mentioned already. So when they say carbon is the enemy, what they're really saying is that you are the enemy because you are a carbon life form. Whatever you do, whatever activity you partake in emits carbon. So what's happening? Humanity is the enemy. Man is the enemy. All right? What they want to do is they want to reduce global population. And I'm not saying this lightly. They want to reduce global population. They want a more manageable livestock. That's what we are. They want more, easier to manage livestock. Okay? And we have to push back against these people. These people have always been here. They haven't gone anywhere. They've always been in the background. They've always been in the shadows. Once upon a time, they wore gold little crowns and they were kings and queens and barons and whatnots. Now they wear $10,000 suits and have very expensive watches, but it's the same kind of people.
Yeah. Well, that was amazing, and you've both successfully stolen all the talking points for the next chat that I was going to be having up here on the stage. Thank you. Can we get a huge round of applause to all four? Now, John Ruddock, MLC, and the Honourable Gary Johns, thank you so much for joining us. You can take your seats. To Senator Ralph Babet and Senator Malcolm Roberts, I have one more little job for you. Now, Tim, can you grab that table for me, please? And bring that up into the front. There's Tim over there. Round of applause for Tim. Fashionably dressed stagehand. Now, did either of you watch the video that I sent you of the game Carrot in a Box? Is anyone familiar with Carrot in a Box from 8 out of 10 Cats? All right, one person. Excellent. We're doing well. We are going to play Coal in a Box. There is coal in one of those boxes. We know how precious coal is. We know how vital coal is to the survival of this planet. Both of you want that coal. Tell us how desperately you want the coal, Senator Babet.
I love coal. Coal is the element of life for our nation. You know what? We sell our coal to China and all that. They make solar panels. They send it right back. So you know what? We should keep it for ourselves. Screw them.
All righty, gentlemen. Sorry.
Well,
Senator.
I love coal so much that when I graduated from university with a mining engineering degree, I decided I'd better go and learn something. So I worked as a coal-face miner, mostly underground, for about 3 years around the country. I love the stuff. I absolutely love it. I love it because it is the cheapest form of energy that is reliable, scalable, and secure. And that's why we need to give it to everyone in this room. I absolutely think coal is... By the way, coal, the reason the whales have survived is that 170 years ago, we used to use whale oil for lighting. That's why we replaced it with coal, and now the whales think coal is the best asset on the planet.
Speaking of
and we don't stop there. Another reason is we used to use timber, chop down trees, for heating and for cooking. The trees started getting thin, so we stopped using trees and we started using coal, oil, and natural gas, hydrocarbon fuels. In the developed continents, in the last 100 years, the area covered by forests has increased 30%. Coal is the favourite of all the trees and whales on this planet.
Yeah.
Speaking of coal, for Christmas, as a Christmas present, I actually sent Minister Blackout Bowen, a piece of coal. I put it in a box and I sent it to his office. I'm sure he liked that one.
Now, gentlemen, I'm going to pit you against each other in a battle of wits. You are two of the finest politicians we've ever had in this country, but I need to know who's number one. Who's on Team Babet? Give me a yell. All right, who's on Team Roberts? Oh, Roberts has the edge at the moment.
He's the favourite right now.
Gentlemen, could you two stand up and take the appropriate side of the table here? Now, the way this game works is inside one of these boxes is this precious, precious piece of coal. I assure you it is not from Bunnings. Taken out of a 10-kilogram pack of coal briquettes. It looks like that, but it's not, I promise. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to allow Senator Malcolm Roberts to carefully lift the lid without revealing anything to Senator Ralph Babet and have a look. His box will either be empty or it will have a coal briquette in it. Then, Senator Roberts will make the fateful decision of whether he wants to keep his box or whether he wants to swap them and place his box in front of Senator Babet. I will then do the deed so that it's done as quietly as possible and hopefully we don't give anything away. Then the suspense begins because Senator Babet will have to figure out whether Senator Malcolm Roberts is tricking him and playing him and put the coal in front of him, perhaps for him to reverse it. Have you ever seen that scene out of The Princess Bride with the 2 cups and the arsenic? This is that in real life. Okay. Does everyone understand the rules? You will get the final decision, Senator Babet, as to which box you get.
So it's kind of like Parliament House. We're just got to lie to each other.
Basically, yes. We are testing your ability to deceive. Senator Roberts, when you're ready, take a look in your box.
Except that, Ralph, we normally work together.
We do. Senator Roberts and I are always working together wherever we can, which is actually quite a lot. So it's a very good relationship.
All right.
Well, only one can have this coal. Not even I can see. Only Senator Roberts knows what's in that box.
What's my next step?
You decide, do you want to keep that box in front of you or do you want to swap the boxes?
I want to swap the boxes.
You want to swap the boxes? Let me do that.
You touch the box, you might know what's in it.
He's the real estate agent, not me.
So now
This
what?
is how Senator Roberts wanted the boxes to be. Now, the final decision is yours, Senator Babette. You want that coal. This is a battle of wits. Figure out what Senator Roberts is doing.
He just said he wants the box. He wants to swap the box.
Yeah, so he swapped. So I've done that now, and now the final decision is yours.
How am I supposed to...
You're not supposed to. You're supposed to figure it out. That's the idea. Talk us through it. What are you thinking? Do you think that Senator Roberts would have put it in front of you or kept it in front of himself?
I don't know if Senator Roberts is that conniving. Although, he might be tricking me.
He's certainly seen a lot of it in his time, so he would know how it works.
I will keep my box.
You're going to keep your box. Is that your final decision?
It's my final decision.
Going once? Going twice?
Sold?
Sold to Senator Babette. Open your box. Do you have the coal? Well played.
No
Well played. Well played.
Well
Huge
played.
round of applause for our wonderful senators.
Well played.
You can keep that, Senator Roberts. That is my gift. My gift to you.
We should send it to Chris Bowen. Minister Chris Bowen.
I want to send him a lot of other things.
Huge round of applause, please. I've got that. They are wonderful representatives and they are wonderful sports, and they have allowed me to give them a very hard time tonight, and I'm very, very grateful. So thank you to you both. Tim, can we get rid of this table when you're ready, please? He's on his way. Don't worry. Relax. It's on country time. Albury time. Alrighty, here we go. Table is gone. Now, JR, or excuse me, for those that aren't as familiar, John Ruddock, MLC, took a serious turn in that last conversation and kind of stole my thunder a little bit, because actually his name's on my list of people to bring back up to have a serious conversation with, along with the Honourable Gary Johns and Joe Nova. And there is a serious side to what we're doing here tonight. Yes, we're trying to have a laugh. Yes, we're trying to have some fun. We've got some more music coming in a minute. We've got dessert coming soon. But there is a really serious side to this. This is an existential crisis. If we keep self-harming in this way, and we keep on demonizing the very thing that has brought prosperity to our civilization, it does not end well. It does not lead to good places. We need to be talking about this, and so to join me and to talk about it with me right now, I'd like to invite back the John Ruddock, MLC, Joe Nova, please join me, and the Honourable Gary Johns. Please join me. Well, thank you all for being wonderful sports tonight. The reality is, there does seem to be a level of self-hatred that's crept in to our culture. We seem to despise all of our past accomplishments, many of which can be seen on these screens down the back of the room. In Australia, the early settlers being shown here, and so many different things that we've achieved over the years that made this country what it is. We once used to build things. We once used to create things. We once used to care about leaving a better world to our children, and what we meant by that was a world that was better for them to live in. We've changed. Any thoughts on what's changed and why? It's on.
It's become a bragging competition. It's about impressing friends at Saturday night at dinner. And the competition is, how well can you trash the country? Because it makes me look so good amongst my green lefty academic high-ranking friends to be the one who can trash it more than anyone else.
But let me play devil's advocate.
So it's a petty competition.
Let me play devil's advocate. They must know they're doing harm.
No.
It's so obvious. No? John?
Well, I think there came a time when we had a workforce that built things, and not because of climate change nonsense did we begin to outsource that building to China and other places. So we have a workforce that doesn't make things. It sits in front of screens, which is natural in a way and perfectly reasonable, except that anyone under the age of 40 has never really gone to a factory or seen things rolled out or manufactured. So why would they talk about it over dinner? All they see is the world through a screen, and the old geography of where things came from and how they were made and how they were put together is gone. Now, I don't know whether we can reclaim that, but there's a level of ignorance about how the world is made with a lot of carbon that's going to be quite hard to reclaim.
It's an interesting point that you make. I've heard the exact same thing said about food production. People don't know where their food comes from anymore, and it is quite an astonishing thing to think. For me, as a 40-year-old, I was born in Corowa, just up the river, and I used to holiday in Waganya, and my auntie had a winery in Rutherglen, along with other friends that had property, and I completely took it for granted that I saw those things, and I saw, oh, that's where grapes come from, oh, that's where cows come from, that's a bit gross, etc. All the things that you see when you interact naturally as part of your life with primary production. And you don't think about the fact that there's an entire generation of people out there who have not necessarily seen that. And I'd never thought about that in relation to manufacturing.
You know, Topher, I was born in 1970, and Australians at that point were still being conscripted to fight in the Vietnam War in 1970. And you can pretty much trace it back every single generation for forever. Young men were conscripted to go to war. You know, there were some exceptions, but there was an enormous amount of war. Now, since 1970, we really are living in the luckiest generation because there's been no threat of being, sent into war. You can volunteer, of course, if you want, and there generally has been very little war in my lifetime. There's been a few little things, but they have been limited wars. Now, so we have had enormous peace and prosperity in the last generation or two. And that's really what we want more than anything else. But there is a downside with peace and prosperity which we need to warn about, and this is what conferences like this are about. It makes us apathetic, okay? And it's like the Romans. The Romans were tough bastards, for most of their history, but they became so successful, so prosperous, and in the end, it was easy to invade them, and they fell over, in the 400s. Now, what we are dealing here with global boiling, and I just want to reiterate how important it is to use the term global boiling, okay? The UN Secretary General has said it. What we are dealing with here is a mass delusion. Now, I agree with all of the conclusions of Joe Nova. Okay, I am coming at it from a polar opposite direction. We arrive at the same place. She's coming at it from a scientific base. I'm coming at it from someone who's just had a lifelong interest in history. And human beings are susceptible to mass delusions, and we are living in a mass delusion right now. And we're
And can I just say, and I think I own some space here, that I used to be a member of the Greens. So when I say I understand what's going on, I used to seriously raise funds for the Greens for electoral stuff back in Canberra. And I understand how they think. And it is a pecking order. And the pecking order thing, we talk about barnyard chickens and status and climbing the social ladder. It's so real in the human society. And so much of the gains, because of the freedom of not needing to chop wood before lunch and things like that, they have the freedom to pick a different pecking order game. How do you sort this pecking order out when your life is academic, at university, and that is, after all, the kind of people we're talking about, isn't it? I mean, it's not like the tradies are having a competition to trash Australia to be the best guy down at the pub on a Saturday afternoon. That's not how it works. We're talking about the academic, supposedly intellectual thinking circles, the doctors' wives sets and the others. And to impress each other, it's become a game, a competition. If I trash Australian white colonial heritage, I can earn points with some friends. It's about Saturday night. They're not thinking a whole week in advance, let alone a year, let alone a generation. So trashing the country for real is an accident of a game that is about one Saturday night in advance.
That's a pretty bleak view you've got there, but I'm aware that we have a serving MP and a former, in fact, government minister, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. how do we change the incentives in politics? How do we get to the point where maybe we can change this direction, or do we just have to ride this out?
To some extent, ride it out. But here's a little experiment, if you like. I've been trying to speak to nationalist Chinese people to fund movies for Australian audiences about politics in China. So in other words, we see lots of stuff about democracy in the US or in Australia, and occasionally you'll see a TV series, a dramatic movie or something, and it looks pretty rough and tumble. You want to see Chinese democracy? No, you won't see it. But I mean, internal party, that's rough and tumble. People get murdered and disappeared. So I'd love some Chinese money, if there's any sort of nationalist Chinese in the audience, to make, seriously, good, yes, I know, to make something dramatic that our children could view as entertainment and learn, without going to war, how bad the alternative is, how nasty nation states can be without our style of democracy, as rough as it might be.
Well, just before you jump in, I want to make the point to anyone who may not be aware, when Gary John says nationalist Chinese, you're saying that to distinguish them from CCP supporting Chinese. So he's not saying he wants CCP money to make movies. I just wanted to clear that up just in case there was anyone that thought otherwise.
So Topher has asked, how do we combat this mass delusion, this hocus pocus science? Now, I know a lot of people here have probably been advocates for nuclear powered energy for our electricity supply. And my little party, the Libertarian Party, has said it from the very beginning. For 25 years, we support a nuclear power industry. And, you know, France has got a nuclear power industry, and we are, well, what the Libertarians believe is, we believe in a separation between the state and the energy market. So we just believe, let's let every energy option flourish in the free market, flourish or not flourish, okay? And so nuclear would be part of that. However, I do want to say this. Going out there, like Peter Dutton is, and others, saying, oh, well, let's, you know, nuclear, it is an admission that carbon dioxide is a problem. That's why I am unsettled about it, okay? Now, if we have a free market system, the nuclear power industry, hopefully, very likely, will be very successful, but I don't care that it doesn't reduce, that extremely low carbon dioxide emissions. So I think that is an important point. Now, how do we cut the head off the snake here? I'll tell you how we cut the head off the snake. We can have data wars about the, you know, well, Joe Nova says this, and, you know, the other people say this. We can have this endless data war, and keep going, Joe. We need that fight. Okay, but let me tell you, Saul Alinsky was an American, basically a communist in the 1960s. He wrote a book called Rules for Radicals. And in his book, Rules for Radicals, he says, look, if you're going to go to war with a company like, say, General Motors, he says, don't attack the company, attack the CEO. Now, who's the CEO of the global warming BS? Al Gore. Al Gore is the most important, is the most influential person this millennium so far. Okay? You can go to Bulgaria, Bolivia, Botswana, read the national newspaper, climate change. They can't shut up about it, right? They're getting all the political class, the intelligentsia all around the world to keep talking about this, and it's all because of Al Gore. So I just want to give you a little hint that there is a little bird told me that by the end of this year, a movie will be made in America about the life of Al Gore. And you will be shocked how much of a con man this guy is. Okay, so stay tuned for that. Okay, because, you know, I'll finish up in a sec, Topher. But, you know, Al Gore is the only person in about 100 years who's been a president or a vice president, or even a presidential candidate or a vice presidential candidate, who has not written his or her memoirs. They make up millions of dollars out of writing memoirs. Gore won't write his memoirs because he's ashamed of his life story. And a little birdie tells me there's going to be a movie made before the end of this year which documents his whole life, and that will cut the head off the snake. Well, let's hope anyway.
Well, that's the first I've heard of it. That sounds actually very intriguing. I have a theory that I want to run past each of you, and that is that global boiling theory requires that there be more extreme weather, more deaths, more harm, more damage, more extremes. But we're seeing very few new records. Some new records get made every single year. It's inevitable when you're measuring absolutely everything about every single square inch of Earth. You're going to set some new records every single year. That does happen, but we're not seeing the trends moving in the direction they're claiming. We're not seeing more cyclones. We're not seeing larger areas being burnt by wildfires. But what we are seeing is the media making those claims, and we are seeing the Bureau of Meteorology here in Australia and their equivalents around the world hyping weather to an extreme degree. My hypothesis is this. The powers that be want to move ahead with things like climate lockdowns and various things like that. They want to build on what we saw with COVID and now apply it to climate change. But in order to do that, they need the fear. And the weather is not cooperating. I am wondering, have marching orders come down from somewhere to actually instruct places like the BOM to start hyping what we just used to call summer?
Topher, they've got no choice. As you said, the trends are not there. The trends were what they used to say mattered. It used to be only a 30-year trend was the climate. Remember that? And they would tell off skeptics who said it was really cold last weekend. But now it's a complete sell job on any hot weekend. That's climate change. And that's because their trends didn't work out for them. So they are the ones, and I'm sure in tea rooms around the BOM and other places, they're all sitting around and they're just saying to each other that, you know, we must be seeing a trend in frost, a trend in this, a trend in clouds, a trend in that. And because I mean, this is astrology, you can find a trend in 5-day heat waves over 35 degrees in Tasmania if you do all the right parameters at the right time, and it's a lucky dip. There are like 5,000 million permutations and combinations of different weather variables you can study, and you can study any of them this week that turn out with the right trend. So I think that, and most of them believe it, I think, and everyone else they talk to in the tea room believes it too. So it is a delusion and it is spread. But you said before, Topher, that it was depressingly a bleak view, mine, about it being a pecking order status fashion competition. But the good side to that is, ladies and gentlemen, fashion can turn on a dime, can't it? Fashion can pop because it's all about someone trying to pretend that they care more about the planet. So how do you pop that bubble? You point how they're damaging the planet. You take the moral high ground out from underneath the fashion seeker and it can vanish like that. But it takes all of us to just stand up and mock them for it and laugh at them and be brave and face it down. And that's when the fashion trend evaporates.
Well, that's a great idea. And I think farmers and farmers' federations, or their members, should begin to join groups like the Australian Conservation Foundation, Greenpeace, WWF. Seriously, stack their branches, begin to join, and even if you're kept out, make a hullabaloo about it. You know, go to the newspapers or go to the courts to say, you want to talk about destroying the environment, look at what you're doing to our farms. And for farm people to talk to kids, you know, 18-year-old greenies who've never been to a farm and never really experienced the wilderness that they're trying to save, they're just sitting behind a screen, in front of a screen. I think a little bit of confrontation, just polite confrontation, go along to their meetings. Farmers go to the meetings of environmental groups and you'll see kids literally blanch. They won't understand the damage they're doing until they see an adult telling them. It could be really powerful.
And can I say to John's comment about the Saul-Alinsky rule, the isolate your target enemies and keep them separate? The solution to that, ladies and gentlemen, you see someone on the front line being attacked, send them your email, send them your support, even just a message of help to the people on the front line. That'll keep them in there.
You know, Topher, we are bloody lucky. Okay, so there was 2 surges of global boiling in the news. The first one was 1989 to 1992. Al Gore wrote his first book, Earth in the Balance, and there was a big surge, and then it sort of died off. And then it came back in 2006 when Al Gore came along again, had The Inconvenient Truth. Now, I'll tell you why we're bloody lucky. That was about 20 years ago, and look, he won the Nobel Prize, he won the Academy Award, he was like Nelson Mandela, he was like Mahatma Gandhi, right? He was like this, he was above politics, he was this superhero, he was almost like a Christ-like figure. That's what he thinks he is, I can promise you that. Now, I'll tell you why we're lucky, because the climate is random. And we really, I think, give us another 500 years of science, I reckon we will be able to pretty accurately forecast the climate. You know, we had there was three very warm days in Europe in the Northern Hemisphere 6 months ago, 9 months ago now. And that's when they came out with global boiling. Okay, and then, it sounded like an unusually 3 hot days, okay? It happens, okay? The Romans talked about some really hot days. Now then the Bureau of Meteorology in this country, every 3 days was coming out in like July, August, September last year saying, oh my God, it's going to be such a hot summer. Oh my God, bushfires, hot, dry, unbelievable. It didn't happen. It was a particularly cool and wet summer. Okay, so they can't get the next few months right. They're not going to get the next few decades right. Now, why we are lucky, and why I think God or the gods or Mother Nature or whatever it is on our side, is because imagine if Gore had come out with all this BS, tricked the whole world, and then just through random Mother Nature, the world actually did get 3% hotter. Okay, now if that had happened, all 4 of us on this stage and half of you would be guillotined in a French Revolution style thing. They would have said, oh my God, these bastards brought it about, okay? Now, thank you, Mother Nature. Thank you, Lord God, whatever it is, because it hasn't happened. Everything that they predicted, every single thing that they predicted, rising oceans, okay, rising temperatures, nothing has happened. Thank God for that, okay? But we're lucky. Yeah. We're lucky because it's just all over the place. No one can predict it. I hope we can predict it. I think we will predict it in the future, but we're so limited in our understanding of the natural sciences, and so all I can say is, God upstairs, thank you for not giving us global boiling in the last few years.
Well, can I just say thank you to John Ruddick, to Joe Nova, and to Gary Johns. Please take your seats. We're on the downhill run of this NYET ZERO launch. Thank you so much. Now, I mentioned a moment ago that I have my sneaking suspicions that we're going to see climate lockdowns in the future. But you know, that doesn't actually scare me because we've faced lockdowns already. We had a practice run. We had a practice run during COVID, and we learned a lot of lessons. And one of those lessons that we learned was that courage is the answer. Courage is the cure. I directed the documentary Battleground Melbourne because I wanted to tell the stories of courage from my fellow Melburnians, incredible people that did incredible things. And as a part of that, thank you. As a part of that documentary, I ended up working with a young singer-songwriter who wrote a simply magnificent song. Her name is her name is Mandy Ragg, and spelt W-R-A-G-G, by the way. If you're trying to look her up later on, Mandy Ragg. The song is Lions, and I'd like to invite Mandy to join us on stage right now to perform Lions for us here tonight.
Hey guys, how are we doing? Having a good night. Who here has seen Battleground Melbourne? That's a good show of hands. How well did that capture the feeling, the despair, the anger, the rage, but then the hope and the sense of joy that we've found our people? So I wrote this song for Battleground Melbourne, and to me, it captured exactly what I was feeling at that time. This is Lines. It's all okay till it comes to you, when what you believe unravels before you. Feel the fear, sense the light. The more they shame, the more you hide. They say you're all alone, confined to your home. Another love to the bone. We found our kind, watching the bullets fly. We will not comply. We are the lines. We will fight till we die. You can take our time. You can smear our name, but you won't take our pride. We will not comply. We are the lines. We will fight till we die. Take all we own. You can smear our name, but you won't take our pride. We will not comply. We are the lines. We will fight till we die. Take all we own. You can smear our name, but you won't take our pride.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mandy. Would you take a seat for a moment when you can? We'll just let Mandy handle the guitar there for a moment. I was very, very fortunate, very, very blessed to discover you, Mandy, when I was working on the documentary, and you were amazing. Because I remember I gave you what in hindsight was a really bad brief. I basically told you, I just need you to make people feel this particular way. And then you came back with something and you were super apologetic. You're like, oh, look, I don't know, is this what you were thinking? And it was stunning, and it was the birth of that song that was just, I mean, what a beautiful centerpiece that was for Battleground Melbourne. Did you enjoy that? So Mandy, you're actually from Sydney. And one of the things that I've really struggled to wrap my head around is how someone from Sydney, where yes, you had some awful experiences as well, but it was very different to Melbourne. What was it that enabled you to capture so perfectly what we were experiencing in Melbourne?
So I was living alone in Sydney. I had spent 10 years living in Melbourne, so I was familiar with the city. And during the lockdowns, I was living alone and desperate for connection. I was so isolated and so depressed, like so many people. And I didn't know who of my friends I could talk to because I was terrified. And so I went online. I found you. I found a number of other people, Rukshan, Avi, familiar names to a lot of us. And I was absolutely horrified by what you guys were experiencing, which was so much worse than what we were feeling. And so I just, when it came to writing the song, and you gave me a brilliant brief, by the way. You gave me a short time frame, 5 weeks, which I did.
In my defense, the whole documentary was on a short time frame.
Because I'm a bit of a nutcase, I think I did it in 3.5 weeks.
It was crazy, yes.
It was crazy to write and produce the song. And your brief was great. You were like, I like this bit of your song and this bit of this song and this bit of this song. And now just make it like in an Evanescence kind of vibe. And I was like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. Seriously? But you know, I'm always up to a challenge. So I just went along with it, got off the phone and I was like, what the fuck? What am I going to do here? And then I played around, nothing was happening. And then one day my friend, my new Freedom friend, messaged me and said, how's the song coming along? And I said, I got nothing. Nothing was working. And then I put the phone down, picked up my guitar, and it just came out. Like all the feelings, all the pent-up emotion just came out in like half an hour. And I went, I think this is the song.
And it was the song. You weren't wrong. You were absolutely right. So you've been in music for a very, very long time, but your relationship with music has been a little bit up and down. And in fact, in some respects, this song kind of brought you back into it. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Absolutely right. I've sung since I was young, and but was very shy about it early on. And it wasn't until my late 20s that I started writing songs and becoming a singer-songwriter, but it's been an up and down path. And yeah, it had been 6 years between writing or playing gigs or doing anything, and then incredibly and beautifully, and one of the beautiful things that's come out of this awful time is the connections that we've made. And one of them is that this song and the connection with you has brought me back to music. I got out playing gigs again, I'm back to who I am again, and it's a song that I'm really proud of.
It's a song that you're rightly proud of, and it just was such a beautiful centerpiece for a documentary that I'm proud of, and I think you're absolutely right. We've found each other, and in the process we've found ourselves, if I can put it that way. And I think that's true for so many of us. And we're going to need exactly that kind of strength and that kind of resilience and that kind of community for the challenges that lie ahead as well. Now, last question. If people wanted to follow you online, and in fact, I believe a little birdie told me you might even have some CDs here if people wanted to pick those up. So tell us how we can follow you.
Well, you can follow me to the back of the room, to table 15, and I'll sign a CD for you. I have 2 albums. Lines isn't on those, but you can find Lines online. And the best way to find me is, because I'm terrible with socials, is mandyrag.com. My surname is W-R-A-G-G, mandyrag.com, and that has links to my all the platforms that you can find me.
Ladies and gentlemen, would you please put your hands together one more time for Mandy Rag. Thank you so much, really appreciate it. And that brings us very nearly to the close of the evening. I want to say thank you to each and every one of you for being here tonight. I want to say thank you to the incredible Albury Entertainment Centre staff for all the food, for all the hospitality, for all the work that you've done. I want to say an enormous thank you to the volunteers and to the team that have made this entire conference possible, but especially to the team that made this room happen. Look around you, look at what's on the tables, look at what's over there. I'm sure a lot of you will be heading over there as soon as we finish to have a good look at that one. This doesn't happen by accident, and it was a small army of incredible people, many of them in the last few days, and a small number of them for the last few months that have made this possible. Could you put your hands together for them, please? Now, we're saving the world by emitting more CO2. I choose to ignore what was said earlier about humans probably not really actually having any influence over the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere. I'm just going to scrub that from my memory. I choose to believe. I believe we can fly. I believe we can increase atmospheric CO2. And I'm certainly going to do my best by smoking more cigars. But any good campaign needs a good anthem. And as I was preparing for tonight, I discovered that someone has in fact written an anthem to CO2. And so I thought that would be a fitting way to close the evening with a song that celebrates the real gas of life. And so it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you, just as soon as I find the intro, or maybe if I don't. Okay. It gives me great pleasure to introduce to you, I believe his name is Mr. CO2, I think is his name, to give us the CO2 song and to close our evening tonight. Would you put your hands together for Mr. CO2?
You got to clap along here, all right? And when you sing it, sing out CO2. A bit louder. Come on. I love nature and I love you. What should I love? CO2. Animals, plants, and humans too. All they need is CO2. Get to know this molecule, or forever stay the fool. Consensus is not found in science. Science uses for compliance. If our emissions drive global warming, show me, please do. What gas keeps us alive? What gas lets creation thrive? CO2. Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, Jew, only CO2. Shinto, Baha'i, Hindu, only. What's the gift for the planet? Who on earth would want to ban it? Who hates us, loves control? Who would sell his very soul? Who deceives the naive, causing them to believe we fight this evil through and through? Everyone depends on, again, even climate billionaires claiming that they truly care. As they kill water, land, and air, they all need CO2. We are many, they are few. Don't be caught by the global view. One thing we are very sure of, we don't need a whole lot more of. CO2. Again. CO2. CO2 makes the earth greener. It makes the earth much cleaner. Why join a hate-based religion? No debate, just derision. Blind disciples on blind prophets profiting from you. Our ocean farmland sacrificed for idols built on lies. Everything on earth relies on CO2.
Give it up. Spectacular. Spectacular work from Mr. C. O'Toole. Thank you all very much. That brings our formalities to a close. Please enjoy the rest of your evening.